Why, hello and welcome back. My name is Elizabeth if you are new here, and I am so happy to have you here on our little country farm. I shared in a short here on YouTube and over on TikTok and Facebook and all of those good things, all about my hair and how I just had the itch to chop it. And a couple months ago I chopped it a little bit shorter, and then in the spur of a moment I chose to take some not hair cutting appropriate scissors to it and cut it the rest of the way off up to my shoulder. So I don't know if y'all saw that, but kind of a big change here if you were just seeing it for the first time. I'm loving it and have had no regrets in chopping it off. This week I had a bread order for a regular customer of mine. She's actually our neighbor, and so I texted her, I said, I've been wanting to try a new version of our regular bread, and are you okay with that this week? And she said, why, yes. So here we are making a honey oat loaf. I'm doing one loaf and a couple batches of hot rolls, yeast rolls. So for this, I took my regular recipe, as I always do. I've said this before. I said it last time with the potato bread, but it is just my regular old recipe. I did this time a cup of warm water. Now usually I use milk or buttermilk, but I've been trying this out with water lately just to see how it does, and I'm really liking it. It still has a very soft, wonderful texture. When I do water, I just do 1 cup, half a cup of melted butter, half a cup of honey, 2 eggs, and 1.5 tablespoons of yeast. I add that into my mixer, get it really good and mixed up, and then I go ahead and add in my oats. Now I milled mine in my grain mill. I've been doing that because I have like 10 gallons of oats that we were trying to use up in various ways, and this is one of my favorites, I'll say. But you could do this in a blender. I used 1 cup of milled oats. You probably also could just do these whole. It would just add a bit more texture to your bread, so whatever you prefer. So 1 cup of whole or milled oats, or oat flour if you prefer to just purchase that. I replaced 1 cup of my flour with the milled oats. Then I add in 4 to 5 cups of plain flour. Get that mixed in, and last I'm adding in 1.5 teaspoons of salt and just kneading that until it passes the window pane test. I've talked about that. That's when you stretch it really thin and you can almost see through it. This probably takes 5 to 10 minutes in a stand mixer, closer to 10 if you are kneading by hand. Cover that and put it in a warm spot for a couple hours or until doubled. Now, in the meantime, I am trying to make my own buttermilk. Now, I know this sounds funny because why would you make your own buttermilk from store-bought buttermilk? But this is to get it going. It works the same way with yogurt. I've never done buttermilk this way, so we are just now trying this. And since this, I do know that this actually did work even with raw milk. And I ran across this on Pinterest, and it said you mix in 1 tablespoon per cup of buttermilk to milk, and it said you needed to use heat treated, pasteurized, but I'm using raw because the bacteria will, kind of fight to take over, and you want the buttermilk bacteria to take over, but it tasted the same. And then I just let that sit at room temperature for probably 24 hours. In the summer I would do it, which it's end of summer, so it's still pretty warm. But in the heat, the hottest part of the summer, I'd probably do it a little less or just check on it. But 24 hours was perfect this go around. Like I said, it tasted just like buttermilk, so I'm very excited for that. I can make my own buttermilk and take, 1 tablespoon from my homemade buttermilk to make the next batch, which is also kind of how you do homemade yogurt. Now back to those rolls. I am rolling them into 2 dozen rolls that are about the size of a ping pong ball, and then the rest is going to go into a loaf pan. So this recipe would make 2 full-size loaves or 3 batches of a dozen dinner rolls, so 36 dinner rolls, but I did a smaller loaf with this. So I did 2 dozen rolls and a small loaf of bread. I topped that with a little bit of butter, melted butter on top, and then just topped it with some whole oats. Baked that at 350 until golden brown, and then let it cool. It was delicious. This was one of my favorite breads that I've made. The honey just gives it a new flavor, and the oats give it a bit of texture. When I was growing up, I grew up eating potato bread that had oats on top, funny enough. So there you go. This is kind of a mix of my two breads that I have made for y'all lately. Now, of course, we're back out in the garden. I take y'all here every week, sometimes multiple times. We have had so many flowers, it's just crazy. So here we are, cutting another bouquet. I will never not grow some sort of flowers because they have made our entire summer just full of fun. They've made the yard so beautiful, the little garden spot out here. We didn't have very many of this pink flower here, this pink zinnia, but we loved this one. It was so big. It was like the size of my hand. Look at those sunflowers. We've got that red one that you see me cutting and the one beside it. That is a type of autumn beauty sunflower. Some are really deep red. Some of them have turned out to be more orangey, and some of them are very, like, they fade into different colors. So they start, as a yellow, and they'll fade into red on the ends of the petals, which is really, really pretty too. This next one that I'm cutting here, that's called a lemon queen. That is probably one of my favorites. It is more of a pastel-y bright yellow, and it reminds me of summer. This was from a mix that we saved ourselves from our sunflowers last year, and every year we add a few extra packets of sunflowers in there.
This is my garden. I got a lot of sunflowers, and this is my new that's the floor. This is my sunflowers, and this one is mine, and this leaf is super soft, and they smell real good.
Anything else to tell the camera?
Yep.
What?
I love you, camera. And this is my garden where I chomp all these leaves off. And I love you, and I'm Isla, and I love these kind of. Yep.
There's another shot of that lemon queen. Now this following Sunday, got up, got ready, put on a new dress that I found at a local boutique for mega sale. I think I got this dress for like $6, y'all. And it's heavy, it's thick, but it was raining, and we very much appreciated it for the garden. But doing chores on a Sunday morning before church while it rains is not an easy task. And so here's Miss Patsy up on the stand. She is my best milker. She provides the most milk, and she is just trained better than any of the others. I got these from a good farm, but they weren't actually trained for milking. So they were good goats, had been handled a lot, well taken care of, but they weren't actually trained to milk. I don't know that she ever milked them, but she told me she didn't know if they would let me milk them, and so far they all have. Some just fight me more than others, so Patsy here, she handles it the best. Now it's time for a little project here in this little country home of mine. This is a dresser that is from many, many years ago. It is passed down family heirloom. I had it for a while. My grandma passed it down to my mom and I had it in my house for a little while, and then it went back to my mom's house because we tend to trade things back and forth depending on what we need in our house at that moment, and we never get rid of family pieces like this for obvious reasons. It gets passed back and forth. That way it's in use and we both get to enjoy it. It came back to my house and I wasn't quite sure I was going to put it, I thought, in the dining room for a while because I've been looking for something to put in there, some kind of hutch or something. But I had been in our bedroom, which I have now kind of taken over as my little library studio work area, craft room, and I didn't quite have enough space for everything. My desk was getting kind of filled up, and so I thought, I'm gonna put this under our TV. It's blank under there, there's nothing there, and I can fill it with all of my things. So this hutch that you see in the corner that has the mirror on it, when baby Jack was in here, his crib was by the window where the desk is now, and then that hutch stayed right there where it is in the corner, and I had all of his clothes, everything for him in that, and I could pull from that, and then I had a basket sitting beside it for his clothes that fit him at that time. Well, since he's moved out and into a room on his own, I get to take over this whole area. So I moved my desk over there so I can do my work. I have my sewing area set up, and that hutch is completely filled to the top with fabric for our little farm shop. We do sewing, so we sell aprons and a few other things in our farm shop, and we have a little bake shop that we run. But this is my little sewing area. So if you buy an apron from our farm, this is where it's coming from, right here. I have taken over our bedroom as my sewing, craft, office, library. I've got books everywhere because I am a big reader and writer. This is where it all happens. So here I needed space for some office supplies, some painting stuff, some journaling supplies, ribbon, hot glue, all the craft supplies. And so I have made use of this antique family heirloom dresser here in the place where I get the most creative. And I love that almost my entire space here working is passed down from family. So our bedroom is almost completely antiques. The only thing that isn't is our side tables. Those were something Keith and I bought when we first got married, and I hold on tight to them because it was such a special time. We could barely afford them, and they're just cheapos from Walmart, and so it just is kind of bittersweet. So they're torn to pieces. I have taken drawers out and covered it with fabric because they broke, so they're still special. But this desk that you see, I bought from a church yard sale. It is antique, it is old, all the things. Our bed I bought off Facebook Marketplace, and then the hutch and the dresser are passed down from family, which is very, very special. I feel like our bedroom has so much character, so much southern farmhouse charm, and I couldn't think of a better place to have all of my creative areas set up. Now off to make a little treat. We needed like a last summer treat. Now, of course, this is not something that we ever stop making year round. Brownies is what I'm making. We never stop making brownies, but I was gearing up, getting ready, getting excited for things like apple pie and pumpkin flavored things, and I thought we need one little treat to kind of wrap up summer, and so brownies it was. So the first thing we do for these brownies is put a cup of butter into a saucepan and start getting that melted down. Then we're going to add in a quarter cup of cocoa and start combining that. You have to really whisk that good to get that cocoa mixed in, otherwise it will clump. Then we're going to add in 2 cups of sugar. Get that completely mixed in, all melted together, and turn off the heat. And you're going to let that cool for a little bit. Once that cools, we're going to add one at a time a total of 4 eggs. Yes, 4. And then a cup of plain flour and a tablespoon of vanilla. Now this is an adapted recipe from Burdette Gant. I need to give all credit to where credit is due. Y'all know I use her recipes all the time. Usually I change plenty just because I use what I have on hand if I don't have enough of something. So that's kind of how that goes. I almost never make her recipes as it is, but I did get the inspiration and the base of the recipe from her, and that is what I'm sharing with you. Now this isn't anything from her. This isn't her third cookbook, but she also has it posted on Facebook, so I'm not giving out anything that she, hasn't shared herself. These were delicious. Now with ours, I added pecans on the top, not in, and I only did half of it because I'm the only one who will eat it with pecans in it. Thank you so much for joining me again in another video. I will see y'all next week. Thanks for stopping by.